Can you just remind me, what's the time limit here? I want to make sure
6 minutes.
6 minutes. Okay, everybody ready? Sitting down? Okay, here we go. So I'm James. I'm the head of community here at Spot Fitness. And at Spot, we're trying to help everybody get physically active. Okay, now the problem that we're really trying to address is the pandemic, and not the pandemic that you're thinking about. We're actually talking about the physical inactivity pandemic, right? It was actually classified as a pandemic by the WHO over a decade ago. And it is a problem that has only been worsening in recent years. We can actually see here, we have a timeline of this pandemic. And on the left, the y-axis, that there's the percentage of the US population that is overweight or obese, which is typically very strongly correlated with the percentage of the population that is not physically active enough. And we can see, 1960 was around 45%. 2020, we went to 80% and over. Okay, so it's a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. And despite our awareness of this, right, even though it's something that's been talked about for quite some time, it's only getting worse. Right, and it's pretty easy if we look at these things that are on the timeline. What do these have to do with the pandemic? Well, I don't think I have to tell you guys too much that as things have gotten easier and more convenient and more comfortable to do from our phones, it's become easier not to even make the walk to the store that's down the street, or just to get in your car to go to pick up food and bring it back, right? Even those little things that used to keep us at a minimum level of activity have quickly gone out the window. Right now, the kind of funny thing about this is that means this is one of the big bad guys, right? These smartphones. And we actually think that it's the same thing that led to a lot of the sedentary lifestyle that can lead to these solutions. So we'll get to that in a minute, but basically phones are pretty good at affecting our behavior, and they have done so in a negative way for quite some time, adding to a trend that started with other things. But we actually think phones and apps specifically are a way that we can kind of unlock the potential to actually get out and get active. So let's talk about our solution. We've been talking about this, as a society, as a people, it's beyond any one society for a long time, and yet we're still not able to do it. I think I won't poll the audience here, but I think if I were to say, how many people are as physically active as they would like to be, it's probably less hands than we might expect. Even though we all know, right? We know we should be active, and yet we're not. And a big part of this is about social support. Right, we've actually done a lot of research into we've done research into research reports and other papers about what actually affects people to go out and be more physically active. And social support is the #1 contributing factor to that. So we want to create an app that gives people that social support, but in an organic way. Right now, if we skipped straight down here to people to meet and just said, hey, Yale, Josh, you guys both want to play tennis. So why don't you guys go ahead and, meet up and play tennis? That would be a little bit inorganic. It'd be a little weird. It'd feel almost like a dating app. You're looking at guys' pictures to see who you want to go play tennis with. It's not exactly natural. So instead, we want to start up here. Places to go, right? Places to go, things to do, and people to meet. These are all of the elements of social fitness, right? All the elements involved in being physically active. Finding places to go and do your preferred activities. Finding activities, games, events happening around you. And through both of those things, connecting with other like-minded people who are going to reinforce your own active lifestyle goals. Okay, so this is really the top level description of what we're doing. Places to go, things to do, people to meet, all in one app. Now, the market that we're talking about is the health and fitness market. It's huge. Fit tech is booming and was even before Corona, right? We could see there are 826 million users of health and fitness apps. That means we don't have to convince people that they should start using apps, right? People are already using these. We just need to show them why Spot is going to be the best one for them. We can see fitness apps are projected to grow to be 15.6 billion by 2028. These are huge, huge markets, okay? Not only that, but Corona has really primed this to be even more significant now. Just in the first half of 2020, fitness app downloads went up by 46%, right? So not only are there a lot of people already using apps for fitness, even more people have turned to those recently, and that trend hasn't really come back down. Competitive landscape, what a big mess. We don't need to get into the details here. I'd be happy to go through it with anybody else who'd like to after the call. Suffice it to say, there are other competitors, and they all have some pretty significant fatal flaws that we are learning from, so we don't have to make those mistakes. And we're pretty confident that we're able to create a better offering than most of what's out there already. Finally, the product, as I said before, places to go, things to do, people to meet. These are just a couple of different screenshots. We have some prototype images that we have put together, and we're launching our MVP in the Central Florida region in Q2. So that'll be coming up soon, and you guys will be able to have it in your hands and play with it a bit. But here's just a brief taste of what it's going to look like. So you can find places on the map set by different filters that you put in there, find things to do, different activities, what's going on, and then of course connect with people as you would like to. Here we have our monetization timeline. I don't know how relevant this is to everybody here who's in this group, but we are not just trying to get people active and trying to help people out. We are also definitely planning to make money, and this is how we will do that. As you can see up here, just 0.2% of fitness app users, which if you remember was already close to 1 billion. If we capture 0.2% of that, we will 20x, right? Quite nearly 20x our pre-seed round 3 years after the Series A. So there's definitely quite a bit of thought that's gone into this. We have a pretty detailed pro forma that I don't mind explaining or showing to people individually later. But we can come back to this if there are questions. Here's the team. There's a bunch of us. I know. Turns out if you're making an app about teamwork is the way to do it. Again, I'd be happy to go into detail about any of this with anybody who has specific questions. And that's it. I think that's my time. I think I did it in 6 minutes. Do I get a cookie? No? Okay. Just
you get a virtual cookie. So
virtual. I'll take it.
We just tagged your computer. We're going to be tracking you. So yeah,
perfect.
That's all right.
So that's the quick pitch, and I would love to hear any questions, comments, concerns, anything from the audience.
Yeah, I'd like to ask an obvious one. Why you? Why do you care so much, and why are you the right person to bring this to the market?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Well, again, it's not just me. We have a pretty good team, but me personally, I have been a football coach for the past 10 years. I live in Tel Aviv, and I coach American football in Israel, which is pretty cool. But I've always been a team sport athlete. I played baseball and soccer and football growing up. I played football at a program in high school in Southern California. And, sports have always been a big part of my life. And what I never understood was that team was such a big part of my life until I was forced to retire. Football is also not a very healthy sport. So eventually I was forced to retire earlier than my face would have requested. And I can't tell you how much I miss the team. I miss being around the team. Now I still coach, right? So I'm still around, but I'm not as active as I would like to be. And I'm really missing out on that. But also here, Yoni, who's also on the call here with me today, and Adam is also in the call as well. But both of them are part of the team that we put together to build Spot. Yoni and I both have worked together before in mobile app development companies in high tech in Tel Aviv. Yoni is actually based in Orlando himself, but we both have experience working with mobile apps. We actually work for a company that creates mobile apps for large broadcasters like Fox and Disney and so on. And so we have the experience in working with mobile apps. We have the practical experience in terms of being involved in sports and athletics. And Adam, sorry, I didn't talk enough about Adam, but Adam is a serial entrepreneur from the Orlando area. I think some of you might be familiar with him already, Adam Ben-Heavy. And again, we have put together a team of other relevant domain experts. So I didn't see that wasn't on there for specific things. So we have a VP of marketing also based here in Tel Aviv, who's got about 10 years of experience marketing high-tech companies and apps, also has background in mobile apps. This feels like an overwhelming response to a fairly simple question. So
No, it's perfect.
I'll leave it there.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
As they say, people want to know why you care before they care what you know. So I want to make sure that was clear, like there was something a little more personal here for you and for your team members.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but also for me, living abroad, I'm from America, born and raised, but coming home is a little bit sad for me. I have a brother and a sister who are roughly the same age, roughly the same body type, and they're really struggling, and my sister, I know, really watches what she eats and tries to do what she can, but she is not as active as she should be. And my brother is very active on his own, very independently active. He's a park ranger out in California, but doesn't have the kind of social support that would actually keep him doing those things and involved in more healthy activities like that. And it just, it's a personal thing for me that I want people around me and the people that I love to be happy and healthy. And also I want everybody to be happy and healthy. And again, I mean, we're on this slide. We definitely want to make money while we're doing it, but we would really like to help get people active.
Yeah. No, money's the easy part actually, but I hope you're making that part of your message, that what you just shared with us. That's fantastic. Ernesto wants to know, he says he's excited to learn if and how you have already considered partnering with Bumble Friends and online dating applications. Do you see a a
Yeah, so
collaboration or some synergy there?
I would say, without being,
We lost you.
We lost your sound, James.
Well, I'm here, so I'll take over while he's figuring out the tech side of it. We actually started with a problem statement that came from one of our founders, and it evolved into where it is now because of what James was talking about and the experience of the rest of the founders. But it originally started with our creative executive director, Gabe, who was coming to me as one of my close friends, and he's a designer at Deloitte, and he was explaining that he puts health and fitness as an interest on Bumble and Tinder and the rest of it, and then he meets up with people and that have that in their profile, but then he suggests, okay, let's go for a bike ride, let's go to the gym, let's go for a run, and they're not up for it. And I told him, look, there must be an app out there that is like a Bumble, Tinder for fitness people, right? For people who are into fitness. And he told me, yeah, there are. They suck. I've tried them. And it started with like us looking at that market and saying, you know what, there's just a real need here that isn't being addressed. And we wanted to go that route. Over time, with our focus groups that we ran with a lot of people and surveys and just our own personal experiences with the other founders not having that experience firsthand, and the rest of us are married, it evolved into what James presented to you now. And we found that if you have this sort of dating brand aspect or even features in there, it really turns off everybody that is not looking for romantic matchmaking. And if you, as one of the girls in one of our focus groups said, like, if it has a messaging component and I'm single, it's a dating app, right? Instagram doesn't have dating features. It's a dating app still though, right? So we decided to pivot away from that and kind of learn from what Bumble does. Bumble tried to move into this like Bumble Friends thing. It's not as successful as it would be if it was really a friend matchmaking app, because everybody knows that Bumble's a dating app, right? It's hard for me as a married man to have Bumble on my phone and tell my wife, look, it's just for finding friends. So we've actually decided after our focus groups to move away from the dating application side of things.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mitch, I'm going to be getting to you here in a second. Eric wants to know, is there a gamification element that'll keep people coming back? And if not, do you think something like that would be helpful?
Yeah, excellent question. We definitely, I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the Hook model, but it's based on it's from a book called Hooked, written by Nir Eyal, and it's about behavioral.
It's from Orlando, by the way. I grew up here. At least.
Another Orlando local.
Mhm.
And anyhow, the short answer is yes, we definitely plan on having gamification. There are a number of ways we can implement that. One thing we're considering strongly is spot points, right? Where you'll actually earn some kind of points or credit within the app that you can use to redeem maybe offers or unlock new spots or get access to places that are typically paid access places and so on. And also we want to use some of the regular kind of default stuff that even like LinkedIn does for gamification for profile completion and things like that. But product virality, actually, you'll see it here in our competitive landscape. Whoops, unless I clicked the wrong thing. You could see it here. We actually, a significant portion of our competitive landscape analysis was based on product growth principles, right? And what you're talking about there, we're talking about that with implementation of the Hook model, but there's also a lot of other things here that go into that, right? Incentivized sharing, for example, viral mechanisms that are built within the app to get people to share it, all of this kind of stuff. So gamification is one component of that, yes.
Good. That's the human side of things too. How do you get humans to, human behavior studies?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right? Is affect and change human
Okay.
behavior in a positive direction. So yeah, we're gonna have to use those tools that are available to us for sure.
And Tammy says, this is a great idea for folks who travel and maybe want to participate in pickup style sports in like different cities. So that's
yeah, that's a great point, Tammy. It's definitely one of the big use cases that we see is for people who are either traveling regularly and just looking for something all the time, or even planning a trip ahead of your trip. It could even ostensibly be something where we're actually already communicating with several municipalities around Florida, and they see this as a great way to help promote their own local tourism, right? Chambers of commerce are interested in this because, if you're in Seminole County and you're looking and you see that, oh, there's this event happening in Deltona, this could be kind of fun. Or, next week there's a race that's in Daytona Beach, or there's going to be this thing happening in Orlando. It just helps people to get more involved in the greater areas that they're in, because a lot of these municipalities are building apps that are very siloed, right? That serve their community and only their community, which is nice, but it turns off, it basically prevents anybody else from being able to get in and see those things as well. So I agree. I'm planning to use it for business trips myself.
Perfect. Coach Mitch, you have a question? Weigh in, please. This is your lane, man.
No, I know. Well, I just want to give them contacts. Maybe they'll meet one day with me. I got 4 bowl games I got to be involved in these next couple of weeks with pro athletes and college athletes. So, but anytime, I mean, this is it. People contact me all the time. Hey, coach, do you know somebody for a club that I could join? Things of that nature. Obviously, they ask you that. So definitely they could use my contacts. I know LinkedIn, it's been easy for coaches in my profession to contact me. But I know that Meetup uses it too every once in a while. People find out about, I don't know, like different tennis clubs and so forth. So I did go on LinkedIn and I saw a spot and I saw that you guys were having it. So I wanted to find out more about you guys, and definitely you can use my contacts, because I can't answer everything when people contact me about finding a wrestling coach, or you know how it goes.
Yeah, that's actually a great use case that we would like to be able to help people with, right? Is eventually to have coaches, trainers, gyms, and yeah, that'd be great. I really appreciate it, Mitch.
Oh yeah, no problem. I mean, hey, why not? It's to serve people. So in all these disciplines, whether it's exercise science or health and fitness or wellness or coaching, let me know, because I know they do in hockey. They contact me for my kids for hockey tournaments all the time. So, that's one sport that does it. I know. I'm sure other sports do it as well. And they do have their own apps sometimes on their sports websites for contacts. So if you could somehow get that all coordinated together, that's great, because people are searching, and
that's exactly right. People are already looking for it, right? And in many cases, they're using other tools that are not purpose-built tools to kind of hodgepodge it together, right? I use a combination of WhatsApp and Discord to help manage the football team that I coach. Right, I've spoken with league managers that are using Facebook.
Yeah, they do. Coaches, I don't. I don't like Facebook, but I know that they use WhatsApp or Snap. They use Snap a lot to get the word out for players and so forth. So
sounds like it's worth connecting. You two, you two should probably connect offline. Because you guys, Coach Mitch is a wealth of information and resources, and just a good person. And I know you,
Mitch, I'd love to spend some time. That'd be great.
Yeah, Josh, just give him my phone number and have him text me, because I got some stuff with the Orlando sports.
Can you put it in the chat just to make sure it's there?
Oh yeah.
So
let me try that.
Thanks, Coach.
Great.
All right. Hey, it's great seeing you guys. I'm sorry football's taking a lot of my time, but I appreciate you guys. Believe me.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks. So Rupert says investors are turned off by our market is so big that if we just get a tiny percentage, it'll generate tons of cash argument. You need to focus more on how you will get that market. So he says, I've seen many similar apps and ideas. Why will you succeed when all the others haven't?
Yeah, that's a great question. We did a pretty in-depth analysis into those similar apps in order to figure out where we could succeed, as opposed to just hoping that we could. And as I mentioned before, a lot of them have some pretty significant fatal flaws, in our opinion. In fact, I'll just very briefly go back to the competitive analysis slide. Although this is, we did a really in-depth, version of this. This is just for a deck. But for example, a lot of them, they miss some very basic kind of UX thing. Let me explain it a different way. Most of these apps are created either by fitness enthusiasts who have very little tech background. So they pushed a lot of the fitness stuff forward, but they're missing kind of some of the basic building blocks in order to create a sticky app. Or they're created by technologists who don't really understand the fitness markets that they're serving. And in both of these cases, they don't create something that really works. A lot of them that are more successful are successful within a very specific silo, right? Like Strava, for example, is probably they're by far the most successful of the competitors here on the list. Strava started out almost exclusively as a running app, and they are very popular within the running community. But they're, two things. First of all, their feature set and most of their marketing and everything that they've done for branding until this point has been focused on running and other triathlon style sports. So that's kind of what they've created for themselves. And similarly to the problem that Yoni brought up earlier, which is dating apps trying to pivot and go into a different thing. They're already branded as a dating app, so it's hard for them to do that. Similarly with Strava. But the other point is that I can't tell you how many of these apps that we opened, and as soon as you open them, they make you pay, right? Or as soon as you open them, they make you, go through a 35-step, onboarding process, right? And they do these little things that turn off a lot of users, right, immediately. And once they're turned off, they're gone. So I know this is not. This might seem like an overly, kind of blasé response, but the answer to how are we going to do better than a lot of these other apps is by learning from their mistakes and doing better, right? Like looking at what they're doing wrong and doing a better job of that. And in my opinion, again, really focusing on the product growth principles from the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Go
I'll
ahead.
add to that. I agree with everything that Jaymes is saying. I mean, the experience of our team, we know these product growth principles are not just, and we've executed on these product growth principles. They're not just buzzwords for us. But ultimately, we're not the same as these other apps. They are, as you can see on the left, functional scope, pretty limited. We're seeing there's these three main use cases of finding places to go, things to do, and people to meet, and people don't want to download 3 different apps for these different things.
Right.
And the average person, isn't a tennis enthusiast or basketball enthusiast or cycling enthusiast. The average person is struggling to get fit, and they would go, play tennis. And if they had someone who would go kayaking with them, they would go kayaking and they would go biking. And having to download 4 different apps for all of these different, fitness activities, and then more different apps for all of these different, use cases, it's just not serving the market. It may be reflective of the, enthusiasts who are founding these companies, but it's not reflective of the used experience of the regular person in the market here.
Okay, we have a ton more questions, and I have a ton more questions too, but we are out of time for this at this moment. So please make sure you download the chat at least and look at some of these questions, and everyone can reach out. Make sure your contact information is in the chat as well, so people can reach out a lot more easily and ask these questions. I'm going to do a follow-up email because you got me thinking about something. There's a difference between being different and then differentiating yourself. And that's way too much to get into. So I'll have to turn it over to Eric for our final question, and then we can talk after.
All right. Thank you. Great job, Jaymes and Yoni.
Thank you very much.
So the final question is, what can we as a community do for you?
Yoni?
Of course, someone called me just now.
Okay, so I get.
I got it. I hung up on them, obviously. So we could use connections. There's really 2 places where we need to get in front of the right people. We need to get in front of the right businesses. Businesses that have a vested interest in fitness and health or that market. And we need to build out our partnership program, essentially. And we need to get in front of the right investors, right? So we just closed 130,000 angel round. We just got accepted to an accelerator. We're going to be putting together a pre-seed round with that accelerator. But in the meantime, we have Safe Notes as bridge capital, which if we utilize that, will position us better for the next round and enable us to kind of expand the scope of what the MVP is going to be here.
All right, great. One other thing I would recommend for those of you in Spot who are in Orlando now, make sure you note that in the chat so that if anybody wants to meet with you in person, they can do that.
Absolutely. I'm in Orlando now, and half of our team is, so Adam Benevi, our VP of Biz Dev, Gabriel Quinones, our Executive Creative Director, are based in Orlando, and the other half of the team is in Israel. Jaymes and Nir and our tech lead, our lead architect. So we're very like Tel Aviv, Orlando company.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank you very much for the time, guys. I look forward to continuing the conversation directly. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, next up, we are going to hear from Ernesto Mandowsky of CPD Advisors. Ernesto, tell us all about that and what do you do?
Wonderful. Just give me one moment. Let me set this up. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me in the Orlando chapter of 1 Million Cups. I'm super excited to be here today and to share my honey with you, to share my story with you about how I started CPD Advisors. So before we begin, I just want to share the ask to Prime as you're thinking about it. But basically, I'm looking for 3 companies who want to go through a 2-hour complimentary annual planning workshop. We're in annual planning season, and everyone knows that they want to kick off the year with a boom. So with that being said, my story begins with the bumblebee. How many of you here know how honey is actually made? Anyone? Oh. Okay, so I will give you slight education. Honey is made, bees go to different flowers, they extract nectar, pollen gets on their legs, and they go from flower to flower drinking the nectar. As they, after they're full, they go back to the hive and they create honey. And that is basically how they survive. As they're pollinating, flowers create fruit, and we eat the fruit, and the animals eat the fruit, and everyone's winning together in the beautiful integration of nature. My story begins with The Secret, one of the biggest, most popular self-help books that I read and watched the movie when I was 16 years old. And at that point, I learned about the law of attraction, and I had no idea what that exactly meant. You can have anything you want if you think it. But what I did take away was this idea of a vision board. And so when I created my vision board as a teenager, I had the University of Florida, a picture of my family, a picture of friends, and a picture of a deep passion of mine, which was for hospitality. When I went to school, I continued to create this vision board by curating the experiences that I surrounded myself with. I studied systems engineering at UF, and I read a book about the Ritz-Carlton that taught me how CRMs are used to keep track of their guests around the world. I went to a club in New York called One Oak and built them a CRM system about 10 years ago to help them get off pen and paper and move into the digital age. Someone said I was doing tech consulting, so I went to work at Deloitte, and on the weekends, I was baking challah bread in my apartment to continue to feed that passion for food and beverage. After about a year of doing that, 2 years, I found a job with a restaurant group, a point of sale company, and eventually the Palm Restaurant, where I would combine my passions and skills to create these different opportunities for myself. I was the person kind of connecting all the different systems together to give management teams information as they needed to adjust and course correct as they were running their business. Throughout this whole journey, I recognized that I had a special, unique intersection at these 3 pillars, which inspired me to write a book called Newbie, which is my personal memoir inspired by bees and how they make honey. After finishing this book, I discovered the problem that I really wanted to solve as an entrepreneur, which led me to start CPD Advisors. And this is the problem. The problem is entrepreneurship is crazy. It's chaotic. There's a million moving pieces. We're all founders. We're wearing all the hats. We're constantly switching. And that is creating lots of stress, lots of overwhelm. And if there's anything I learned from my experience is that having a structured process and systems to contain some of that chaos is something that can be super helpful for the market. So as I mentioned, entrepreneurship is hard, and so is making honey. The bee The bees are facing so many problems in the world as they're doing what they do to survive. They're fighting pesticides, they're being fed steroids because they have to keep up with all the demands of the almond milk that we all are trying to consume. There's monocropping out there, they're not diversifying their diets, and there's just all this pressure that's built up. But despite the challenge, they carry on, just like all the founders. We keep trucking along. So, oh my God. So that is what led me to start CPD Advisors. And our mission is to help people share their honey with the world. So what does that mean? How do we do that? What we do is we build regenerative business systems that help transform chaos into cash flow. Sorry, I don't know why my slides are not working. We use the 6P strategy and execution playbook to give entrepreneurs an operational excellence tool to help run their companies. The 6Ps are priorities, which is your goal setting, your objectives, your key results. Projects, which is your project management. People, which includes sales operations, hiring, and all sorts of vendor management, all the people aspects of the business. You have playbooks, which are your processes, which opens up the door for automation, elimination and automation delegation. Promotion, which is sharing your messaging, and planning, which is weekly planning, monthly planning, quarterly planning. When we were looking at the market, we saw lots of tools that were out there, but no tools that were as flexible as the Notion system. Notion is one of the hottest startups that started about 5 years ago and recently reached a $10 billion valuation being used by thousands of companies. And when we saw the versatility of the tool, we said, great, let's configure the tool to fit our 6Ps and serve our clients. We started our company about a year ago when we published Newbie last December and discovered Notion. In the spring, I joined my first networking groups in Miami, 2 entrepreneurship groups where I would find my first clients. In the summer, we were featured on Shark Tank. And no, I'm just playing. We were not featured, but we actually did have a client that was on Shark Tank, and they had to go from one husband and wife couple to scale to 15 people. And when he had to grow all that quickly in less than 3 months, he had no processes in place through which he would communicate all the different moving pieces of his company. I also started giving workshops in the summer. In the fall, we created basically our 6P formula and had our first conference, which we presented to over 50 people now. And now in the winter, a year later, I'm doing my 1 Million Cups tour, sharing my story, sharing my honey with all of you. Our future is built on 3 pillars. The first one would be doubling down on our mission and vision of really evangelizing the regenerative business movement. We intend to get certified as a B Corp. If you don't know what that means, a B Corp is a certification that shows your company is dedicated to improving the triple bottom line, which is your profits, investing in people, and giving back to the planet. Our second pillar is products and services. We're going to be doubling down on doing more workshops, more conferences, more e-training, more just digital products to continue growing the company. And the last one is building the ecosystem. We want to build a regenerative business ecosystem here in Miami, and we hope to create the first regenerative business conference for over 1,000 people in Miami in the next 12 to 15 months. I'll conclude on the ask again. We are looking for 3 companies to continue to get that experience of walking them through annual planning and actually talking about how we can take that plan and immediately put it onto the Notion system so they have something that can support them with implementation and follow through. Ideally, it would be a tech company, a CPG, or a professional services company between 1 and 5 employees, and they're looking to increase their headcount in the next 3 to 6 months. If you're interested, I invite you to email me. And with that, I will take all Q&A.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story up front. A lot of folks don't do that. And that's so I feel it's so important, right? To help build that connection. And I can tell you've already been working on your brand, that your brand is definitely coming along. So kudos for that. Because I see a lot of folks go to market too fast and they don't have a message. And so that's really cool. Rupert has a really interesting point, and I have a follow-up question to his. But he says, I would argue that your methodology is basically all project management. Is that kind of what it basically is? Or is there more to
without
it?
a doubt, without a doubt, everything is project management. Everything is you have an idea and now you have to drive execution. And it's just different flavors of project management, whether you're hiring someone or whether you're putting together a marketing campaign or simplifying your operations. It is all project management. Yeah.
Okay, then my follow-up question is there any IP here? Anything, is it basically a branding play you're doing, or there's just some IP? Is there a balance? So is there anything really special behind the scenes versus your basically your upfront message and your differentiation being your brand? Where are you mainly focusing or think it's going to work?
I wouldn't say there's anything like defensible, I think is
Okay.
the question.
Yeah.
Definitely trying to create a strong brand around this. I have a longer term vision around accountability and support with technology, but I mean, that's way too long term to even bring up right now. But yeah, it's basically like a branding play. I want to build a services company, which is enhanced or supported by just digital e-courses and whatnot.
Got it. Nima, this question is, are you able or willing to use an option other than Notion?
Yeah, I can. The only reason why I tend to Notion, I find that like tools like Asana is the most immediate competitor. Asana doesn't have as user-friendly of a way to integrate both the documentation and the project management and table side in one place. Notion is very easy, readable, and minimalist and cheap. But yeah, I haven't had a client who would ask me to go another direction and who wasn't willing to switch to Notion. Notion's cheaper anyways. But yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Rupert says basing things on your book, like a copyrighted work, would be defensible.
Sure. I mean, other people can write a book and call it newbie also. There's really no, because they can just add another word or switch the description and there's not too much.
Well, and defensibility is also not just like having a patent or a copyright. It could just be let's call it a trade secret, a process that you use that's just kind of unique to you because you do things different. And as long as that comes out in your brand, that can actually be a very good differentiator.
And actually, copyrights are more defensible than patents because you cannot just change one word or phrase or anything like that. It's the gist of the primary messaging of the book that is defensible. So,
right. Oh, okay.
That's something you can run with.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
I just want to point out real quick, Ernesto, I think your email might be incorrect. I think it should be cpdadvisors.com.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So just before anybody sends an email off to that.
Thank you, James. Yeah.
Just looking out. I was already opening an email. So
it's a little small on my screen. Normally typos pop out of me like that too. So can you explain a little bit more about your business model? How do you make money? Is it like, can you just get a little more flavor into that, please?
Yeah. So I basically have 2 consulting packages that I offer. I do full day strategy sessions where they want to talk about the 6 Ps. Like I basically give them an idea of how the 6 Ps integrate with their business. At the end of the strategy session, I try to upsell and say, hey, like I can build you a tool that will actually help you drive all of these ideas into reality. So that's kind of first option. The second option is do a 3-month implementation and support plan where I just get all the information. They're already more or less established. They have a working model. I just take it, put it into Notion, train them during a full day, and then work with them for 3 months, meeting weekly to just continue to support the change management side of things. And I'm currently, my distribution model instead of going one-to-one to every startup, I'm trying to go to the community builders. So like a 1 million cups is a community builder where there's multiple people. There's a few other entrepreneurship groups in Miami that have 100, 150 plus members in there. And I actually get them, the community, on Notion. And they kind of like serve as the use case, the case study, the testimonial to the rest of the community. And that's how I kind of been growing. That's the extent of my model I have thus far.
Okay.
I think in the future, I might want to have some sort of a membership model where on a monthly basis, I'm doing specialized trainings. I know there's a few coaches on the call. Maybe they have somewhat similar business models where they have membership models, doing coaching, doing workshops, offering discounted workshops to the members, and then full price retail workshops to non-members. But yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm going in.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to look at other models, and as many as you can, just to give you, you know, they say it's okay to be a copycat as long as you copy the right cat. So you got to find kind of what fits well into your style and how you want to provide value. Had a question, and I just forgot it. Oh, have you done I call it a pre-mortem, but have you thought of like, all right, 2-3 years from now, this thing falls apart. It just doesn't work. What happened? Like what's the thing that is like the riskiest thing that can kill this? Is it you're in such a crowded industry and, you know, maybe you just can't get out of that noise, or is there something else? Have you really just kind of dug deep and like, what can really kill me? And then how do I mitigate it?
This definitely is a crowded industry. But I like to say that people usually die, more people die from indigestion than from starvation. I think, you know, especially now I'm working with a lot of 30-year-olds that are, you know, Miami now is like the burgeoning entrepreneurial scene. And there's one client of mine that literally has a community of 700 tech founders. And he's so excited about this. And I think, you know, I'm going to make him his great tool, but then 500 people will call me, and then I don't know, like it'll be great, a great problem. But I think burnout of trying to serve all of these people at the same time could be the thing that gives me indigestion. And I'm kind of working now, like, okay, how do I scale my service as a single person services company? How do I do that? And there's a guy out there, his name is Rory Vaden, who's a brand builder. And I recently joined his group, and he has like a membership model where his whole curriculum is digitized, and there's monthly calls with a strategist, and kind of like walks you through the whole curriculum. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, maybe that could be the model. That's how I can serve people at scale while still keeping headcount kind of light.
Yeah. He said, Anwar says, scale using courses as you suggested. That's a very good idea. Yeah, that's crucial. So who is your favorite person to work with then? Who's your, I hate using the word ideal client, but who do you is it the tech founder? Is that kind of like your, what's in your heart? Yeah.
It is, I mean, tech scales. Tech's the group that really has the highest impact, I think, out of most of the industries. And the tech founder knows that he needs to go from 1 to 10 overnight. And so I would consider myself spiritual or conscious, and you know, the tech founder who can put his ego aside and actually say, I have no fucking idea what project management is. I just know how to make my thing. Please teach me. And those humble people are the ones that are willing to learn these new tools, these new skill sets. That's ultimately like how they're going to keep growing, like by putting our ego to the side and asking for help from all the right people around you.
Yeah, definitely. And Rupert says scalability has to be built into this entire model, just going back to so that definitely seems to be a theme here. And James asks, have you considered joining an accelerator, you know, as a fellow or an advisor?
Yeah, there's maybe you guys are familiar with them. There's Founders Institute, which is I think an incubator for tech companies. It's based in Silicon Valley. There's a Florida chapter, and actually the president of the Florida chapter runs my co-working space. So we've been talking a lot about how I could get involved and starting to do some side projects for her, and maybe she can bring me in as an advisor, or as still kind of figuring that out.
Yeah, and that brings up another good point with collaboration. You know, there's people upstream and downstream from you that they need your service. Like people that leave a certain place, they need what you do. And then there's people that need you to do your genius before they meet their clients. So have you thought about like who's upstream and downstream in that sense?
So the pre-seed fundraising advisors, pitch advisors are, I don't know which one's up or down, before me. You know, they come, they go to them, they raise some money. Now they have to go from 1 to 7. And, you know, that's where I would come in. And then, I don't know, after that, I haven't thought of like what serving a Series A or Series B company looks like. That I think that's like a whole lot of other complexity. I think the next step is like maybe creating a certification for chiefs of staff or director of operations of companies who like actually need to come in and do these, like implement these tools for their founders. But I don't know exactly who yet I'm targeting. I'm trying to focus on the pitch advisors, the financial advisors of like the pre-seed and seed companies.
Yeah, and that's great. Now, after you though, there's people that, where do people go when they're done with you? Have you thought of that? Like, so
I haven't been there yet. I'm not there yet, but it's a good.
Yeah,
it's a good.
Those are people you're going to want to reach out to. So if it's maybe it's banks. You know, maybe banks are like, damn it, if people would just come to me with actual process in place that I can believe in, I can open up a lot more funding for them. And not or investors. I don't know, banks, investors, however you look at it. Maybe the bigger investment side.
But it could be VCs.
Yeah. So basically everyone, so when someone's going to a VC saying, I got this great idea, it's blah, blah, blah. And they're like, wait a minute, you don't have your shit together. Go see this person. And now you become that trusted resource. And then they can go back. And then they're motivated too, because they know they got a VC waiting for them.
Right. Exactly. And there's a lot of VCs now moving to Florida, Miami specifically. And so while I have the introductions ready when I need them, I don't have the case study. You know, if I'm talking with Yoni, for example, and he has his 7-person tech company, I don't know yet how to quantify how implementing the 6 Ps actually returns ROI for him. Like, oh, project management is going to make you more effective. But what does that even mean to him? Like, I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, but you will. So,
but I will.
I will.
Yeah, I will.
Denny has a quick comment, and then I have to send Eric for the final question. Denny, if you can keep it real short, please share.
I worked many years as a productivity consultant, probably for Fortune, mostly for Fortune 500 companies, and it was all about project management. But basically, what we did is we taught supervisors from the very basic line to make decisions, and we made sure they had the right information they could make those decisions. And it just goes up the line. What I see you as a real possibility for you is we do this in sales training all the time. Why not have something that trains these people to do that? You could have seminars where you bring in lots of companies, 3-4 days, maybe even a week, and just go through, step by step by step. This is how you do project management. That's what you need to do. And if you can get people to actually make decisions, which most people are crippled, they don't make them until there's an emergency and everything's blown out of control. If you can get them to do that, you'd be having a tremendous time helping not only the economy, but yourself.
Right. Thank you. That could be, I mentioned that I plan to have this big conference, a regenerative business conference in a year from now. Maybe that could be either my first CPD advisors' first big seminar, or removing CPD advisors from the spotlight and just like bringing together lots of businesses just to plant the seed of the idea of regenerative business, create the problem and then present the solution.
And put together a team of experts that can talk about different subjects that give you some credibility and move forward from that.
Right.
Perfect. Hey, there's a lot more questions and comments in the chat. So please be sure to download that and save it. And I got to turn it over to Eric for our final question.
All right, Ernesto, thank you very much for coming and for sharing CPD with us. So the final question, and you heard me ask James this, is what can we as a community do for you?
I guess if there's anyone who's put together business case, like quantifying effectiveness of implementing some of these project management tools, like I would love if I could have half an hour of your time just talk through this. If you or you know someone who kind of works in that, would love for that. That would be the biggest help.
All right, great. Thank you very much. And let me share my screen one last time, just to tell everybody that we are off for the next 2 weeks. So you won't get any notification on the 22nd. You will on the 29th, but that will be for January 5th, 2022. So let's see, what is that, 3 weeks? I think that's 3 weeks. So in the meantime, please connect with each other. Download the chat. If you want anybody to get in touch with you, drop your email or your phone number in there. Connect with somebody that you met. Make plans to meet for coffee or have a Zoom conversation either now or this month or next month. And then be sure to join us on the meetup.com group. That's where we get most of our notifications, or our Facebook group. And other than that, I will wish everybody happy holidays, and I will see you in 503 hours.
Wow.
Have a
Can you
good
be more
New Year.
precise, Eric?
Yes.
Give or take 20 minutes. So.
Take care.
Have a nice holiday, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Happy holidays.